Hi there, traders. This is Brad Goodwell with the FX Market Insight for Friday, the 18th of September. All right, a few days off. Ended up blowing my desktop computer up, but we're back online now. Just having a look at what's been going on. Now, the dollar rallied after the Fed, pretty upbeat sort of comments from the Fed, and then slowly deteriorated on the back of this data, right? And to me, it's almost a little bit inconsequential. I know there's a few things that are slightly weaker, but it's not like they're fallen off the radar. There's quite a few numbers here which are expected. Like the Philly Fed index, it's a 15, it's worse than what it was previously, but still as expected, and not a big difference in the jobless claim. So I don't know what's going on at the moment, but it's this dollar sell-off to me doesn't really correspond with the data. Now, that's not surprising in this current environment. Now, if I bring you over to the technical side of things, where's my picture there? Just looking at the currencies, right? So there's just been a bit of toing and froing. Now, obviously, a really nice clean out on the downside in euro, but back in the range. Sterling's managed to pick itself up off the floor and starting to slowly work to the top side. Kiwis, the one pair, or there's two pairs that got clear direction, dollar yen and the Kiwi. The rest of them are, sort of banging away. Now this is, and I'll show you this on the, actually it's probably easier, on the daily market insight, because when you look at this, there's a few things happening, right? The connection with the equity markets, that risk on, risk off profile, it's not in play, right? We should have a bit of a slight risk off day. US equities lower. And you know what? The currencies are higher. So that relationship is discombobulated. And so trading right now, it's a little bit average because we're getting these, false starts where we're getting quite a bit of focus and then it sort of deteriorates. Sterling was the one pair that had a lot of potential, getting it back above 129, the figure. It's sort of executed. Euro sterling came off nicely. Now you've really got to be fine-tuned to work out which pairs are really going to give you the opportunity. So just at the moment, to me, on the market direction sort of side of things, Kiwi and dollar yen, the two best pairs. On the long-term side of things, this is why I've got the dollar index is sort of sideways. It's sort of banged up and down through that resistance line. It's the same for dollar CAD as well. They're just drifting sideways now. Aussie's almost very much the same. But so that we're not getting that clear follow through. Now, when you get really good market conditions, let me just get that pen again. What you get is when the US dollar ignites, you get clear direction across all the dollar pairs and obviously all the dollar block pairs. So we're not getting any of that sort of clarity with the dollar, and that's making trading a little bit confusing. All right, now you come down to the data. And this is what I said. I mean, those US numbers, I know there was a bunch of them, but they weren't like sort of falling off the radar. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So what we've got some Canadian retail sales and the prelim University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers. By all means, have a look at those. But I think there's slim pickings just at the moment. One thing, just having a look here as we go into Friday's trading, just keep an eye on sterling, right? There is a lot of pressure building for them to go into another massive lockdown. That obviously would have a negative impact on sterling. So sterling could really come into play. But at the moment, it seems pretty happy around, 129.60 up to 130, the figure. Outside of that, well, there's not too much to sort of jump up and down. The good thing is the Fed's out of the way. There is some more data coming out, but we know that's not really connecting sort of hugely. And if you have a look across the news, there's not a lot going on. Like dollar, the main thing, the commentary here around the dollar steadies after falling overnight on downbeat US data. It's like, well, you know what? That data isn't major. It's not like, really super important. So this is, when they're struggling for news, when they start to bring up Japan as a news item, they are struggling for new information or new items to read. So that's what you can see there. Obviously some info about TikTok. There's basically no news here to really get us inspired and looking for that opportunity. So just play it by ear. As I said, Kiwi and dollar yen are the two best pairs. You know, I think these things are a little bit overdone. If anything, I'd be almost looking for dollar to get short again, Kiwi, back when it falls back into the range. And dollar yen, well, you know what? It's hard to see exactly why it's moving, whether it's a geopolitical situation, the US dollar weakness, et cetera, et cetera. It's a tough one. Every time you get short, it just sort of spikes back into the range. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you know what? This has been a much steadier, slow drift lower. And the rest of the pairs, well, it's, you know, it's coming into Friday's trading. We may see some opportunities, but without any sort of significant data, obviously the CAD will be in a bit of a spotlight with some data coming out. We may see a bit of a false break in euro. Like and why I say that is when it gets close to these trend lines, especially after blowing out the downside, there's usually a build-up of stops on the top side, all these new fresh short positions. And coming into Friday, liquidity starts to thin out after lunch in New York. We may see that sort of pop up and then back into the range, and you may see that on a couple of pairs. So I'm not getting overly enthused just at the moment. All right, guys, have a good trade day and a good weekend. Cheerio.